Game.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jamie N. Escabrera, and I will be presenting our topic, strategy formulation, functional strategy, and strategic choice. The learning objectives is first, identify a variety of functional strategies that can be used to achieve organizational goals and objectives. Second,
Mamaya, may
understand what
ginagawa pa kami.
activities and functions are appropriate to outsource in order to gain or strengthen competitive advantage. Third, recognize strategies to avoid and understand why they are dangerous. Four, construct corporate scenarios to evaluate strategic options. 5. Use a stakeholder priority matrix to aid in strategic decision making. And last, develop policies to implement corporate business and functional strategies. Next. Functional strategy. Functional strategy is the approach of functional areas take to achieve corporate and business unit objectives and strategic by maximizing resources productivity. It is concerned by developing and nurturing a distinctive competence to provide a company or business unit with a competitive advantage. So, function strategy refers to a business strategy that focus on action plan by a particular functions area in order to achieve a set of business objectives. It aims at improving the effectiveness of firms across various functional or departments. Just as multi-divisional corporation has several business unit. Each unit has its own department and with its own functional strategy. The orientation of functional strategy is dedicated by its parent unit strategy. For example, is if the overall goals is to increase the market share, the marketing department functional strategy might be created a new marketing campaign. Then next is business unit following a competitive strategy in differentiation through a high quality needs. So manufacturing functional strategy that emphasize the expensive quality assurance process over cheaper high volume production. And last is a human resource function strategy. Sila naman yung nag-emphasize ng hiring and training of high-skilled but costly workforce. Tapos may example dyan sa module na yung nag-expand daw si Mr. Donut sa Japan. So, alam natin na yung Japan had no breakfast, coffee, or donut in their customs. Pero, nag-take pa rin ng risk si Mr. Donut. And, nakaisip siya ng strategy which is, the market of donut is not as a breakfast but a snack. Pero, paano natin gagawin na snack na lang yung donut? Nakaisip sila na ilocate yung Mr. Donut restaurant sa tabi ng railroads and supermarkets. And all the signs sa kanilang stores ay English para to appeal the Western's interest of Japanese. Next. Marketing strategy deals with pricing, selling, and distributing a product. Then, ang marketing strategy, mayroong dalawang developed strategy sa marketing, which is the market development strategy and product development strategy. Didefine ko muna yung marketing strategy. It refers to the overall game plan for reaching prospective customers and turning them into customers of their products or service. It involves a set of coordinated action and tactics designated to promote product, service, or ideas to target audience which way that maximize success. So sinasabi lang na yung marketing strategy mo is yung game plan mo para yung mga prospective consumer mo ay maging intern sa maging customers mo, maging ayun. Next. Hindi pala. Balik pa, balik. Then, doon naman sa dalawang developed strategy, Ang first is the market develop ay hindi, market develop strategy. So dito ay it is a marketing approach where a company seeks to expand an existing product or service into a new market. It typically taking a product or service that has been successful in one market and introducing it to new geographic location of different customers demographics. Ito yung pwede dito example yung ginawa ng Mr. Donut na successful na yung Mr. Donut sa isang market at inintroduce naman nila yon sa bagong geographic locations. Then this strategy can include activities such as international expansion, target a different age group, or entering new geographic regions. Market development often requires research, adaptation of product or marketing approach to suits the new market needs, and understanding of local competition and customer preferences. Then dun sa product development strategy, it is centered around by creating and introducing new products or service to existing market or customer base. This strategy aims to capitalize on companies' understanding of its customers by offering them something new that meet their evolving needs and desire. This can involve improving existing products, launching entirely new product lines, or innovating in response to changing market trends. Product development strategy requires research and development efforts, understanding customers' feedback, and ensuring that the new offerings aligns with the company's brand and customers' expectation. So, yung pagkakaiba ng market development is yung product niya is successful na sa one market, then inintroduce niya sa new geographic location or sa different customers. While naman dun sa product development strategy ay nag-i-introduce lang sila ng new product or nagke-create sila ng innovation sa isang product para sa kanilang market or sa existing customers nila. Next. Next po. Other marketing strategy. First is for advertising and promotion. Meron silang dalawa, push strategy and pull strategy. So, pag sinabi nating push strategy, it is a marketing approach where a company promotes its product or service to intermediaries such as retailers, wholesalers, distributors, with the goal of persuading them to carry and promote the products to the end consumer. In this strategy, the emphasis on pushing the product through the distribution channel. It often involves providing incentives, discounts, or promotional support to encourage intermediary to stock and actively market the product. Ultimately, the aim to create demand among intermediaries have them to push the product to the end consumer. Then the pull strategy naman po, on the other hand, is focused on creating demand directly with the end consumer. In this approach, business invests a marketing and advertising effort that target the end consumer. These efforts are designed to build brand awareness, generate consumers' interest, and drive them to request the product from intermediaries or purchase it directly. Pull strategy often involve techniques like advertising, content, marketing, social media campaigns, or other consumer-oriented promotional activities. This idea is to pull the customers towards product by creating a desire for it. So, ang pagkakaiba ng push sa pull is, ang push daw ay approach ng companies na kailangan ng intermediaries. Yung ang magpo-promote ng product nila is ang mga retailer, wholesaler, distributors para ma-persuade yung end consumer. While dun sa pull strategy ay nag-iinvest na yung company sa marketing and advertising effort para sila na talaga yung directly na makaka-influence sa end consumer. Then both push and pull strategy can be used independently or in combination, depending on company's objective, product type, and market condition. Push strategy are effective in industry where intermediaries play significant roles, while pull strategy are valuable for building strong consumer demand and brand loyalty. Then sa pangalawa naman is when pricing a new product. May tatlo: skimming pricing, penetration pricing, and dynamic pricing. Um, when we say skimming pricing, it is a pricing strategy with a company initially sets a high price for a product or service when it introduced to the market. Then, as the product matures or competition increases, the company may gradually lower the price to attract the more price-sensitive consumers. Skim pricing is often used to maximize early revenue and profit, and it's commonly associated with products like latest tech gadgets or luxury goods. Then, second is penetration pricing. Is the opposite of scheme pricing. It involves setting a low price for a product or service with the aim of quickly gaining market share and attracting a large customer base. The lower price can be temporary, and the company may plan to raise the price once it achieved its market penetration objectives. Penetration pricing also can lead to lower initial profits, but designated to create a strong customers base for future revenue growth. Then last is dynamic pricing, also known as demand-based pricing in real-time pricing. It is a strategy in which prices are adjusted based on various factors such as demand, time of day, competitor pricing, or consumers' behavior. So, ang pagkakaiba ng tatlo is the skimming pricing ay nagse-set muna sila ng high price sa product, then 'pag nag-mature ito, saka pa lang sila magbababa para ma-secure yung profit nila. Then sa penetration naman is kabaliktaran naman ng scheme pricing, which is sila ay nag-o-offer ng low price sa product para maka-gain ng market share and para maka-attract ng mga customers. Then puwede naman nilang itaas 'yun 'pag nagkaroon na sila ng strong relationship with customers. Then dynamic pricing naman is ito naman yung pabago-bago, yung dahil sa mga demand or time of the day, nababago yung pricing. Ang example nito is yung mga airlines. Puwede silang mag-adjust ng price ng ticket based on the seat availability or sa demand. While dun naman sa online retailers, puwede silang mag-change ng price sa product nila based on customers' browsing history and demand pattern. Next po. Then, financial strategy. Examine the financial implication of corporate and business level strategic option and identifies the best financial course of action. So, ito naman po, yung financial strategy is, siya naman po yung comprehensive plan na dinedevelop po ng business or organization to manage their financial resources and achieve specific financial goals and objectives. It involves making informed decision about how to acquire, allocate, and use financial resources effectively to support the company's overall business strategy. Next. Then sa financial strategy, meron siyang leverage buyout, an acquisition in which a company is acquired in transaction finance large by debt, usually obtained from a third party such as insurance company or an investment banker. So, sinasabi po dito na ang leverage buyout daw po is a financial transaction in which a company, typically a private equity firm or group of investors na nag-a-acquire ng another company by using the significant amount of borrowed funds or debt to finance the purchase. Ang pag-acquire po ng company's assets and often a company's itself are used for collateral for the debt. Next. Research and development strategy deals with product and process innovation and improvement. It also deals with the appropriate mix of different types of R&D, basic, product, or process, and with the question of how New technology should be assessed through the internal development, external acquisition, or strategic alliance. So the R&D or research and development strategy is a strategic plan or approach that an organization or a business, government agency, research institution formulates to guide its research development activities. This strategy outlines how the organization will allocate resources, set priorities, and make decisions related to research development efforts. Next po. Yan. Meron pong um, one of the one of the R&D choice is to be either technological leader or technological follower. So pag sinabi po nating technological leader, it's an organization or entity that is at the forefront of innovation and technology development in a particular industry or field. They often the pioneers who create new technologies, product or service, and they set standards and trends to others follow. So, technological leaders typically invest heavily in research and development to maintain the innovative edge. They have a competitive advantage and are often market leaders due to ability of offer cutting edge solution and driver industry change. Then, the technological follower naman po is an organization or entity that lags behind technological leaders in adopting and implementing new technologies. They tend to monitor and assess the innovation brought forward by technological leaders and then adopt this technology after they have been proven to be effective, widely accepted. So, technological followers may have more cautious approach, often observing the success and failure of leaders before making their own moves. While they may not be the first to market new innovations, technological followers can still be successful by leveraging the experience and lesson from the leaders. So, ang pagkakaiba po ng technological leaders sa technological followers is the technological leaders is sila yung pioneers. Parang sila yung first mover na magko-conduct ng research and development. Sila yung makaka-discover kung yung product na yun ay magiging successful or magpe-fail. Then, sa technological follower naman, sila yung magpa-follow lang sa technological leader. Pwede nilang i-adapt or i-implement yung new technologies ng technological followers. Meron silang advantage kasi natututo muna sila or malalaman muna nila yung mga experience and lesson from the technological leaders. Then, pwede nila yung magamit, mapag-aralan para makagawa ng mas maganda pang innovation sa isang product. Then, meron pong new approach which is the open innovation. Open innovation is a modern approach to research and development and research and development that emphasize collaboration, knowledge sharing, and leveraging external sources of innovation. Open innovation encourage the organization to collaborate with external partners such as universities, research institutions, startups, and other companies. Dito po sa open innovation is parang hinihikayat sila ang bawat organization na mag-collaborate. Dahil 'di ba 'pag research and development ng isang company, hindi po nila ito pinamimigay parang kanila lang para maging competitive advantage. Pero yun nga po, may new approach na parang mas maganda or mas magiging successful ang isang research development 'pag nag-collaborate sila. Then, rather than keeping innovation and technology proprietary, open innovation involves sharing them with external parties. This can include sharing patents, technology, and know-how with others can be used to build upon their success. Next po. Then, dito naman is dinedefine din yung technological leadership and technological followership sa cost advantage and differentiation. Pag cost advantage po ng technological leadership, pioneer the low-cost production design, be the first down the learning curve, create low-cost way of performing value activities. So, 'pag sa cost advantage daw po, dahil sila nga po yung ang una is puwede po silang magkakaroon ng low cost production design and sila din daw po yung first sa makaka-experience ng learning curve and create the low-cost way of performing values activities. Then sa technological followership po is meron din po siyang low-cost production or value activities dahil po nale-learn na ng technological follower sa leader based on their experience and nakaka-avoid din po sila ng cost sa R&D through imitation. Alam naman po natin na napaka-costly ang research and development. So, yun po yung cost advantage ng technological followership na hindi po sila i-invest ng gano'ng kalaki dahil through imitation nga lang po sila. Then, sa differentiation naman po, technological leadership, pioneering a unique product that increases buyer's value, innovate in order activities to increase buyer value. So, dahil nga po pioneer, sila po yung nakakapag-introduce ng unique product and increase the buyer value. And dun po sa na-innovate nila, other activities will increase the buyer value po. Then sa technological followership, adopt the product or delivery system more closely to the buyer's need by learning from. So dito naman po is ina-adapt lang po nila yung ginawa ni technological leadership para po para po ma-achieve nila yung buyer's needs dahil po pa, para po ma-achieve nila yung buyer's needs. Dun po sa pag-learn ng mga experience-based sa leaders. Then, i-pass po kay Miss Rona. Siya na po yung magdi-discuss ng next topic. Thank you po.
O basta, usapan natin. Kaliwaan to kailangan namin cash. Alam mo naman, walang problema. I will prepare 100 million. 100
Ayun.
million? Mr. Salazar, sige. Tawagan kita mamaya, ha? That's what's up.
Ayun. So, I am Renabel Martinez and I will be discussing this part po. So, we have the purchasing strategy po, which means it deals with obtaining the raw materials, parts, and supplies needed to perform the operations function. So, sa purchasing strategy po, dito na pumapasok yung logistics or supply chain management wherein the organization are planning to obtain or acquire products or resources that they need for their operations or their system of their work po. So, dito, depende, ang pagpo-purchase nila ng mga gamit ay depende sa kung ano yung product na pino-produce po nila. So, kapag mga sasakyan, pwedeng components, parts, then kapag mga food and such other essential products, pwedeng mga raw materials. So, purchasing strategy also includes yung kung paano maglalabas rin ng pera or kung paano rin yung gastos noong anong organization. Though nabanggit na kanina ni Jamie yung about sa financial strategy, but then this is the physical execution noong plano mo as you make or create your product po. So next slide po. So we have the basic purchasing choices. So we have multiple sourcing, solo sourcing, and parallel sourcing. Sa multiple sourcing from its word na rin, multi or multiple, it means na you are sourcing from different or various suppliers to create your product, meaning marami kang supplier para dun sa products mo. Kapag dito ka sa multiple sourcing, meron kang maraming choices with regard sa quality or sa price noong pinopurchase mo na raw materials or resources. Well, sa sole sourcing naman, from its word na sole meaning sa isa lang. So dito, ikaw as an organization, nagsusource ka lang or nagsusource out ka lang from one supplier. However, ang pinaka-disadvantage nito is that hindi ka nagkakaroon ng choices, hindi ka nagkakaroon ng variations, and pwede kang mag-stick lang sa kung ano lang yung pinoprovide nila, like hindi ganun kaganda yung quality or hindi yun yung gusto mong pricing. However, itong sole sourcing na ito is nakakaano rin siya, nakaka-cut din siya ng cost kasi dito ka na trusted mo na siya. So dito ka na nakakat yung cost mo kasi kapag nag-build kayo ng relationship, meaning you will be able to obtain discounts then. Pero ayun yung main advantage niya, yung wala kang choices, wala kang variations with regards to the price and the raw materials itself. Well, sa parallel sourcing naman, ito yung combination ng multiple and sole sourcing. Dito sa parallel sourcing, for example, meron kang product line. Yung mga components mo para dun sa product line mo na yon or sa family group of items mo na yon is from multiple suppliers. But yung specific product, yung pinaka-product, 'di ba, a family group of items, and then yung sa baba niya, yung mismong specific product, doon pumapasok yung sole sourcing. Doon sa mismong product na yon, doon ka nagso-source out from one supplier. So, iyon yung parallel sourcing. So, siya ay combination ng multiple and sole sourcing. So, next slide po. So we have logistics strategy. So logistics strategy deals with the flow of products into and out of the manufacturing process. So sa logistics strategy, ito na yung pagpasok ng raw materials mo from your supplier to the warehouse and to be manufactured into the operation and out to the supplier na or to the end consumer. So, logistics is a process sa kung paano saan magmumula and matatapos yung products ng isang organization. So, three trends related to this strategy are evident. So, meron daw tayong three trends na evident dito sa logistics strategy. We have the centralization, outsourcing, use of the internet. So one, centralization. So centralization means that the activities, the decision, the planning process of the organization is centralized to the top management, to the CEO. Basta nasa isang tao lang yung gumagawa ng decision or the plan itself. So dito mas okay since top management yung nagmo-move, therefore alam nila kung paano mag-work yung plan nila since they are also cooperating with other business corporations. So dito sa centralization is centralized lang siya to a specific person in the organization. Either sa top management, the CEO and such. So we have number two, the outsourcing. So of course, outsourcing is part of the logistics strategy because when you are outsourcing, you are picking or choosing the best supplier or suppliers para sa products mo since the main goal naman ng organization or a business is to give quality products and gain the customer satisfaction ng mga consumers. So dito sa outsourcing, dapat ay able ka to outsource raw materials and resources when it comes to their quality and price. So three, use of the internet. So use of the internet, nowadays technology or the internet are very relevant na when it comes to the business world or the business industry because of its innovative techniques and applications then. So dito sa logistics strategy, you will be able to search the internet kung sino ba yung best supplier para sa products mo, or ito bang site na to is nagpo-provide ng ganitong cost lang kasi ito lang yung kaya ng organization mo. So with the use of internet, everything is possible na with your business kasi dito is nagiging innovative ka na, and at the same time is nakakakat ka rin ng costs ng organization mo. So next slide po. So we have the human resource management or HRM strategy. So this is a functional strategy that makes the best use of corporate human assets. So of course, for a company to work, you must have or you must be able to you must be able to be na ano ka, na composed ka sa organization mo ng mga magagaling, best of the best employees lang. Kasi dito sa human resource management, meaning pinipick nito or chinu-choose ito yung pinakamagaling sa ganito, sa ganyan, to meet the job qualifications. So dito sa human resource management ay ginagamit ito is human assets, yung talino ng isang tao, yung experience nila. So kapag may maganda kang HRM strategy, meaning meron ka ng stepping stone for your organization, kasi kapag marunong yung tao or employees mo sa business mo, meaning makakapag-work kayo smoothly and mamimit nyo yung mga target plans ninyo or objectives nyo sa inyong company. So, next slide po. So, next slide, we have the information technology strategy. So, this is a functional strategy that uses information systems technology to provide competitive advantage. So, of course, in this modern world, almost all businesses or organizations are using information technology na po, or the use of technology, kasi yun nga, as I've said earlier, technology makes everything possible now when it comes to your business. And research and development is easier to conduct na rin. So, with the help of information technology, you will be able to have a better communication flow. You will be able to track your products or your raw materials hanggang makarating sa organization mo. So, it also provide competitive advantage, kasi kapag maayos yung information technology system nyo or yung ICT ninyo, meaning ay mas magiging maganda or magiging smooth yung operations ninyo, kasi halos lahat naman ng businesses nowadays ay gumagamit na ng technology or ng technological equipment sa pagpoproduce ng kanilang product. So with the help of information technology, ay mas nagiging madali ang trabaho or operations ng isang business or organization para ma-create yung product nila and be able to deliver a great customer services and meet the customer satisfactions as well as the objectives or plans of the company po. So, the next slide will be presented na by John Demarazon. So, thank you po. Ay, ayan. Si Ate Marie pala muna. Thank
Ako
you.
po muna. So, thank you. Let's move on to the sourcing decision, location of functions. So, dito sa location of functions, you will encounter the outsourcing and offshoring. So, pagdating sa outsourcing, let's discuss first what is outsourcing. So, sa outsourcing, ito yung pag-hire or pakikipag-collaborate ng isang company to do a job or pakikipag-collaborate to do a job sa isa pang company. So dito, ito yung process kung saan nag-hire si company ng third-party providers para gawin yung certain activity. This helps sa company na mag-focus kung saang activity sila magaling at ibigay sa other company or sa other team or firm yung isang activity na kung saan hindi sila gaano ka-expert. So, ibibigay nila yon sa mas expert. So, this activity helps the company to save time and resources. So, pagdating naman sa offshoring, so the offshoring is the, din to, outsourcing activity na nag-get ng help from another company and company in different country. So, ang offshoring ay isang outsourcing activity nga na nag-i-involve sa pag-hire ng company to another company in different country. So, 'di ba nauuso ngayon dito sa Pilipinas o napakadami ngayon dito sa Pilipinas ng mga BPO company kung saan ang head company talaga nila ay naka-base sa ibang bansa or like for example nasa US, 'di ba? So, yung mga yon ay more on example of offshoring. So, to be more specific, one of the example is the Vosker company or firm. It is a Canadian firm na nagpo-provides ng remote area monitoring services. So, yung Vosker nangangailangan ng third-party team na makatutulong sa kanila for the inbound, outbound, and chat services for chat services sa kanilang mga customer. So, napili nila na ang tumulong sa kanila o makipag-collaborate sa tinatawag na BPO or tinatawag na company dito sa Pilipinas, which is the 611 Global Teleservices, which is based in Davao City. So, pinili nila yung 611 Global Teleservices to help them in outbound activity. So, sinabi na no, once na nag-collaborate na yung dalawa, ay mas madami daw natanggap na good reviews o customers reviews ngayon si Bosker, which helps the Bosker firm for good customer support or services. So, dun sa collaboration na yon or yung pag-acquire or pag-hire ni Bosker kay um, 611 Global Teleservices ay nagpapakita ng offshoring o kung saan yung pag-a-acquire ng isang company to another company ay na-involve internationally or from other country. So, the next one is 7 major errors that should be avoided. So, ito yung mga errors na kailangan daw iwasan kapag nag-outsource ang isang firm or company. One is the outsourcing activities that should not be outsourced. So, hindi lahat ng activity ng company ay kailangan daw i-outsource at kailangang piliing mabuti kung ano nga ba yung i-outsource ng firm mo. So, base sa nabasa ko ay dapat daw hindi natin ina-outsource yung activity na alam nating core competency ng firm natin, especially that the activity is a critical part ng business for success. So, the second one is selecting the wrong vendor. So, di ba nga kapag nag-outsource tayo ay nakikipag-collaborate or nakikipag-partner or bumubuo tayo ng partnership sa isa pang team or company. So, mahalaga na napipili natin ng maayos kung kanino ba tayo makikipag-partner o kung kanino ba tayo makikipag-collaborate. So, we should choose a reliable and competent outsourcing partner. For the third one naman is writing a poor contract. So, isang error din, major error, ay ang paggawa ng poor contract between your company and the third party provider. So, dahil kapag hindi maayos yung contract between the two, maaring magkaroon ng hindi pagkakaunawaan o kumbaga yung goal ng company mo ay hindi na ma-meet because of lack of support or activities from your third party provider. So kung saan dapat clear sa contract yung expectations and responsibilities ng na-outsource mo or responsibilities ng third party provider or ng company na kinuha mo. For the fourth one is overlooking personal issues. So, kung mapapansin, nakalagay dun sa unang slide kanina na ang isang major definition ng outsourcing ay ang pag-acquire ng isang activity to another company, which is originally talaga yung activity na yon ay ginagawa naman ng firm nyo talaga. So, overlooking personal issues, kapag nag-decide si company na mag-outsource or i-outsource na lang yung isang activity, may possibility na may team talaga na nakalaan doon. So, kapag nag-decide si company na mag-outsource, dapat isipin din na ma-address yung issue if ever na paano pala kung kunwari sumama yung loob nung firm nung team dun sa firm mo na nag-hold nung activity na yun o may hold dun sa activity na yun kasi bigla nga kayong nag-decide na mag-outsource pala kasi maaaring maaring maramdaman nung team na yon na they are lacking so much para mag-decide si company or si firm na mag-outsource. So, kailangan ma-address yung issue na yon to have a clear and clear communication to your employees. For the fifth one is losing control over the outsourced activity. So, ito ay connected dun sa writing a poor contract. So, kailangan naka-clear nga kung ano ba yung naka-clear sa kontrata kung ano yung mga activity yung i-outsource mo, um, yung necessary concerns kung ano ba yung kung naka-clear dun sa contract kung ano yung dapat ma-meet. So, dapat dito sa ano na 'to, sa part na 'to ay ma-maintain or ma-oversight yung communication to ensure the outsourced work aligns with your goals. So, dapat na-i-ensure pa rin na kahit na nag-outsource ka, na-e-ensure na nami-meet yung goals dun sa activity na ginagawa ng third party providers na hindi basta ginawa lang nila kundi um your company and the third party provider as your as your partner ay dapat same goals na maibigay ang ganito or specific na bagay sa customer ninyo. For the sixth one is overlooking the hidden cost of outsourcing. So, hindi maitatanggi na kapag nag-outsource ka ay yung expenses. Other might think na, 'di ba, kaya nag-outsource ang isang company ay para mabawasan ang expenses or to reduce expenses, especially that some certain country or some certain location ay mas mura o mas mababa yung expenses, but there are things na kapag hindi nga na-monitor ng ayos, may possibility na yung cost pala ng pag-outsource is more expensive, especially kasi minsan ang pagbabayad or ang binabayad sa pag-outsource ay binabayaran mo din yung mga experts na gumagawa nung certain activities. For the last one is failing to plan an exit strategy. So, exit strategy. Uh, dito, once na nakipag-collaborate na si firm mo sa another firm or mayroon ng contract, minsan kahit pag gustuhin niya nang umalis at mag-decide siya to ibalik sa firm mo yung ganong activity, nahihirapan silang putulin yung kontrata. So, ito yung failing to plan on an exit strategy to. So, yung bagay na yon ay isa ding nagiging problema na kahit gustuhin na ng firm mo na gawin na lang uli yung certain activities na yon back into your own company, just because hindi nga sila makapag plan ng maayos na exit strategy ay hindi nila magawa. So, the next one is ito, sa pagpili o paggawa daw ng strategy. So, strategy must first is identify the company's or business units for competency. So, mahalaga na yung strategy na gagawin ng firm mo ay naka-align of course dun sa core competency nyo na ipapakita yung core competency ng company or ng firm nyo. Another one is ensure that the competencies are continually being strengthened. So, as of course, kailangan lang na napapatibay para lang napapatibay yung core competency natin para masabi mo na in every um day, in every work that you are doing, nagiging mas malakas yung firm mo, mas nagiging ready tayo, especially to adapt to changing circumstances. For the last one is manage the competencies in such a way that best preserves the competitive advantage they create. So, the next one is ito. Dito, makikita natin sa table or mapapakita sa table na ito yung activities total value added to firms, product, and services, and activities potential for competitive advantages. So dito, aalamin natin kung kailan daw ba dapat i-acquire o kailangan dapat mag-outsource ang isang firm. Kung lahat ba ng activity ay kailangan niyang i-outsource, alin bang part lang sa mga activities ang kailangan niyang i-outsource. So kapag ang activities, if ang activities ay for total value added to firm's product and services is low, pero yung activity na yon ay high naman sa competitive advantage, dapat siya ay pinoproduce internally. So, may part dun sa activity na ina-acquire sa iba at may part naman na ginagawa mismo sa firm ninyo. Kapag naman ang activity ay low sa total value added at high sa competitive advantage, dapat daw yon ay buy on open market or completely outsource. So kapag parehas low, kapag yung isang activity ay babagsak siya sa parehas low, kailangan daw siya i-outsource. Kapag naman high siya sa total value added at high din sa competitive advantage. So, produce all internally. Kailangan i-outsource mo siya. Kailangan hindi mo siya i-outsource. Kailangan mo siyang gawin sa firm mo mismo. Kasi, ito yung activities which can be considered your core competencies or your core competency. Kapag naman high siya sa value added total value added at low naman siya sa competitive advantage, you must purchase with long-term contracts. O ito yung mga nakikipag-collaborate ka or humahanap ka na ng firm, and with that, kailangan may long-term contract ka. At after that long-term contract, saka ka lang ulit mag-decide if makikipag-contract ka ba ulit or yung activity na yan ay pumasok na siya as high cost or baka naman mas parehas o baka naman bumaba na siya on both side. So, the next one is strategies to avoid. So, may mga strategies na nagagawa ang isang firm just because of the top management has a low in analysis and creativity. So, at ito na nga yung mga yon. So, the first one is follow the leader. So, ito yung klase ng strategy kung saan, di ba, mahina nga ang leader sa analysis and creativity. They tend to copy or imitate the leading competitor kung saan na-ignore naman yung particular strengths and weaknesses ng firm mo. So, kakokopya o kagagaya dun sa other competitor na i-ignore kung yung core competency ng company ninyo. One example of this is yung pag-launch ng BlackBerry Storm. So, itong BlackBerry Storm ay inilaunch para to compete dun sa original iPhone noong 2007 kung saan tinawag naman siya as doom or failure o yung BlackBerry Storm nga ang tinawag na doom or failure. So dahil parang nagmamadali si BlackBerry na maglabas ng bagong model ng phone na tatapat dun sa inilabas nga ng iPhone na touchscreen, browser, and media powers, parang naging thinking ngayon ni BlackBerry is kaya din namin yan, kaya namin tapatan yan. So, ang ginawa ngayon ni BlackBerry, naglabas sila ng model which is the BlackBerry Storm kung saan touchscreen din siya. But once na tinouch mo siya, gagalaw yung entire glass panel to feel daw na ang tinatouch pa rin ng gumagamit ay traditional keyboard kung saan hindi tinangkilik yung product na yun and tinawag pa nga siya online as doom or failure. So, sinasabi na dapat daw si BlackBerry ay nag-focus na lang siya sa kanyang core pillars, which is battery, security, keyboard, and efficiency. For the next strategies to avoid is hit another home run. Ito yung strategy kung saan once na may na-produce ang company na naging sobrang successful, sobrang naging flourish, dito nagtatend or nagkakaroon ng eagerness ang isa pang ang company na mag-create ulit ng another product na magiging successful, which is napakahirap gawin na creating something successful after another. So dito um, kagustuhan ng company or ng firm na hit ulit ng another home run or ng another success, sobrang laki ng nagagastos o nagagamit na resources. So, the third one is arms race. Dito naman, o ito yung case naman ng strategy kung saan grabe makipag-compete yung firm mo sa competitors just to increase the market share. So dito sa strategies na to, nakikipagkompetensya nga o nakikipaglaban nga yung company mo sa competitor. For example, kapag naglabas ng promotion na kunwari naglabas ng advertisement yung competitor mo, maglalabas ka din ng advertisement na ganito, na bago, ganyan, ganyan. So this strategy or this arm race strategy can make your market share, yes, increase, but can make your market share increase as well as increase in sales, but the possibility of increase in your promotion or increase din sa magiging gastos ng advertising, promotion, and R&D ay hindi din biro o magiging malaki din talaga. Na kung saan mas malaki pa yung nagastos mo dun sa promotion, advertising, and of your R&D kesa dun sa naging sales na pumapasok dun sa firm nyo. For the fourth one is the do everything strategy. Ito naman yung strategy na lahat ng makitang available opportunity ng firm ay i-go o i-grab nito. So, paano naman naging disadvantage or paano naging problema naman yung ganong strategy o bakit kailangan iwasan? Kasi once na ang isip ng firm is opportunity yon, kailangan go lang ng go. Hindi nila naiisip na once na nag-accept ka ng opportunity, yung resources na magagamit ay malaki din. Especially kung yung opportunity ay malaki din talaga. So, one of the example ng do everything ay ang Walt Disney. So, nakita ng Walt Disney na pwede nilang i-acquire yung ABC company. So, in-acquire nila. Then, after a year, may nakita sila na magandang magtayo ng ganito. Nagtayo din sila without considering yung magagastos talaga ng firm. So, ang nangyari ay nagawa naman ng Walt Disney na itayo or ma-acquire yung ABC company, but then yung pumapasok sa kanila na sales o nakita ay hindi matumbasan yung ginastos nila. So yung paggamit ng do everything really lost the resources or nakakaubos ng resources ng isang firm. So the last one is losing hand. Ito yung strategy kung saan may strategy ang firm na pwede mo na siyang i-consider o mako-consider na talaga siya as failure. But your company can't accept the fact that it is a failure already. Kasi ang iniisip ng company ay malaki na yung invest or malaki na yung na-invest doon sa strategy na yun. Kaya hindi nila ma-let go at hindi nila ma-let go kaya ayaw nilang tanggapin na failure na yun. So, dahil doon, ipinupush yung strategy, ang nangyayari, gumagastos lang lalo lang nababawasan yung resources, pero yung bumabalik sa firm ay hindi tumutumbas dun sa nagagastos. So, that's the strategies to avoid. The next one is strategic choice, selecting the best strategy. So, ngayon, kailangan daw pumili na ngayon kung ano yung best na strategy para sa firm ninyo or dun sa company ninyo. So, dito, makikita or may encounter o dapat nyong gawin ay ang corporate scenario. Sa corporate scenario, ito yung simple. Corporate scenario is a pro forma balance sheet and income statement that forecast the effects that each alternative strategy will likely have on returns on investment. pro forma statements are based on financial and economic scenario. From the word pro forma, so pro forma means estimated future. So, dito sa corporate scenario, nag-estimate ka ng future na mangyayari sa firm ninyo o ng future na pwedeng mangyari o gawin ng firm ninyo. So, dito, it is simply estimates the possible circumstances of what might happen when you decide to apply a particular strategy. So, this estimates the future based on the financial and economic scenarios. Dito napakahalaga nung mga um, napakahalaga ng company records, nung records ng company nyo in the present and in the past. Kasi tinitingnan dito, for example, yung sales ninyo in the past at and the present, kung tumataas ba siya or bumababa ba siya, kung ano yung percentage ng pagtaas niya every year, and if nagko-continuous nga ba talaga yung pagtaas ng sale or pagtaas ng sale based on the trend, kung nasa trend pa ba yung ginagawa ng firm ninyo or nakakasabay pa ba sa trend yung firm ninyo or on the economy analysis. Ang magandang strategy na gamitin para siguro na ma-continue ang rise at maiwasan or maagapan yung mga possible challenges na makikita base sa economic analysis. So dito sa corporate scenario, simple lang, mag-iisip, ililist down mo yung mga strategies na dapat mong gawin, tapos um, ilalagay mo kung yung strategy ba na yon ay pasok dun sa possible nyong magawa into the next few years or in the after 5 years or after 5 years or 2 years, 3 years, ganyan. So, ang example na corporate scenario na pwedeng gawin ay ito. Ito yung example table kung saan makikita nyo dyan yung factors, last year, historical average, trend analysis, ang projections kung saan yung optimistic, pessimistic, and most likely, then comments. So, dito sa table na ito, mapapakita na this table is an example to how to create a corporate scenario. So dito sa table na to, makikita yung halaga na pinagbabasehan to create future strategies or what is the best strategy. Kasi ibibase mo yung ibibase mo dito yung financial and yung economic analysis. For example, na kunwari, yung sales mo nga ay kunwari pataas, next 5 years ba, pataas pa rin ba or bababa na, kasi yung trend analysis nyo or yung economic analysis hindi na pumapasok doon yung ginagawa ng firm niyo. And what you will do kapag ganun na. So, dito sa scenario na ito o dito sa corporate scenario, makikita or makikita or gagawin niyo yung specific or detailed na maaaring mangyari in the future para um, ma, possible na mangyari in the future na pwedeng mangyari in the future kung saan naka-base doon sa strategy ninyo o kung ano ba yung best na strategy kapag napunta na sa ganitong specific scenario or situation. So, I will now give the floor to Lamar Razon to continue the report. Thank you.
Lamar, wala kang sound. Wala pa rin.
Okay na ba?
Yes po. Okay na.
Nice na kayo dyan. Kakat na lang, sorry. Sige. So at this point of time, I will now discuss the management's attitude towards risk. So risk is composed not only of the probability that a strategy will be effective, but also of the amount of assets the corporation must allocate to that strategy and the length of time the assets will be unavailable for other uses. So first, let us dissect what is the meaning of risk. So it is being stated there that the probability of the strategy effectiveness. So it refers to the chance that a particular corporate strategy will succeed in achieving its intended goal. So sa business world naman, walang strategy na nagaguarantee na mag-work. So there is always a level of uncertainty or risk associated with whether it will be effective. So it is also mentioned there the allocation of assets. So kapag ang corporation or a business ay nag-decide na i-pursue yung specific strategy, so it often involves dedicating resources such as money, personnel, equipment, or other assets to implement that strategy. So, yung risk doon ay yung mga assets na iniallocate sa particular strategy and may not be available for other potential opportunities or uses. And lastly, yung length of time assets are unavailable. So, implementing a strategy takes time. So, during that period, the allocated assets are tied up and cannot be used for other purposes. So, yung risk doon is that kapag yung strategy ay na-approve, strategy proves ineffective or takes longer than anticipated, so yung assets are unavailable for a more promising or urgent opportunity. So, next slide. So, real option approach. So, when the future is highly uncertain, it pays to have a broad range of options open. So, yung real options approach is a concept in strategic decision making that emphasizes flexibility in response to future uncertainty. So, yung approach na yun, sinasuggest na kapag that in situations where the future is highly uncertain, so it is advantageous to keep a wide range of strategic options or kailangan marami kang options rather than committing sa single or rigid plan. So the reason behind this approach is that when the future is uncertain, so lacking into single strategy can be risky. So kapag isa lang yung strategy ay risky, so kailangan ay wide range of strategic options. So kapag yung strategy na yun ay hindi nag-work as expected due to unforeseen changes, so the corporation may suffer significant losses. So kailangan talaga merong broad range of options na mag-aalaw sa company na mag-adopt and mag-change direction as needed in response to new information or development. So, let's now move forward to the pressures from stakeholders. So, define muna natin kung ano yung mga involved na person sa stakeholders. Meron tayong creditors, yun yung wants to be paid on time. We have union, yung nag-exert ng pressure for comparable wage and employment security. We have the government and interest groups na nagdidemand ng social responsibility and the shareholders that wants dividend. So yung stakeholders ay can be categorized in terms of their interest in the corporation's activities and their relative power to influence the corporation's activities. In the next slide, there is a graph or a matrix. Next slide po. Stakeholders priority matrix. So we have here the stakeholders' interest in corporation activities and the relative power of the stakeholders. So kapag high interest and high power, yun yung mga key players. So yun yung mga stakeholders na mayroong significant interest sa activity ng organization. So meron din silang substantial power to influence the organization. So sila yung mga stakeholders na importante and they can significantly impact the organization's success. We also have the high interest but low power. So sila dapat yung laging informed or keep informed. So yun yung mga stakeholders na very interested sa organization activities pero meron lang silang limited power to influence the organization. So, it is important to keep them informed, address their concerns, and maintain a positive relationship. So, we also have the low interest but high power. So, sila yung kailangan ma-satisfied. So, yun yung mga stakeholders na mayroong power to influence the organization but they are not highly interested or invested. So, it is essential to meet their expectations and keep them satisfied even if they are not highly engaged. And lastly, meron tayong low interest but low power. Yun yung mga stakeholders na may limited interest and minimal power. So, while they may not require significant attention, it's still good practice to monitor their concerns and engage as needed. So, yung matrix na yan or yung analysis tailors the stakeholders' engagement and management strategies according to the unique characteristics of each groups. So we have the key players, yun nga yung may high interest and may high power. So, they often require close collaboration and responsiveness, while yung may mga lower interest and power may receive less intensive attention. So, it is a way to efficiently allocate resources and efforts to maintain a positive relationships and manage the potential risks. Next slide, please. We have here the political strategy. So it is a strategy to influence a corporation's stakeholders. So the purpose of the political strategy is to navigate the complex web of interests and influences that surround corporation. So yung ultimate goal ni political strategy ay mag-create ng isang conducive environment para sa mga activities ng organization. So, minamanage nito yung relationship, yung perceptions, yung support ng mga stakeholders to mitigate the risk and the enhance the opportunities. So, according to the research, yung mga highly dependent sa government regulation, they are more politically active. The next one is the pressures from corporate culture. So, pressures from corporate culture. So, analyzing stakeholders based on their level of interest and relative power is a fundamental aspect of stakeholders management. So, uh, first, we have to define what culture is. So, lahat naman tayo familiar sa culture. So, yung culture, it is a shared values, beliefs, behaviors, and norms that shape the identity and working environment of a company. So, it encompasses how employees interact, make decisions, and approach their work. So, para maging successful ang strategy, so kailangan naka-align with the existing culture of the organization with with the existing culture of our organization. So in other words, it should be compatible with the way things are done within the company. Conversely, when a strategy is at odds with the company's culture, so maaaring magkaroon or mag-face ng barriers para makamit yung success ng organization. So, employees may resist the change and there can be resistance or a lack of commitment for implementing the strategy. So ang pinaka main point lang is kailangang uh, the highlights that the strategy's success is closely tied to how well it aligns with and it is supported by the company's culture. So strategy makers must consider pressures from the corporate culture and assess a strategy's compatibility with that culture. So if there is a little fit, management must decide if it should take a chance on ignoring the culture, manage around the culture and change the implementation plan, try to change the culture to fit the strategy, or to change the strategy to fit the culture. So needs and desires of key managers. So yung the industry and cultural backgrounds and the use of different decision criteria and ways affects the strategic choices. For example, sa industry and cultural backgrounds na nakaka-apekto sa strategic choice ay, excuse me, kapag merong executives na merong strong ties within an industry tend to choose strategies na commonly used na ginagamit sa kanilang industry, while yung isa namang executives or isang managers ay nagaling sa ibang firm or from other industry ay mayroong strong ties outside the industry that tend to choose different strategies from what is being currently used in their industry. So magkaiba yung strategy na ginagamit nung dalawang magkaibang managers or executives. So doon nakaka-apekto yung industry and cultural background sa pagkakaroon ng strategic choice. And the country of origin affects preferences. So kapag magkaiba ng country of origin or pinanggalingan, halimbawa ay from Japanese managers to United States managers. So si Japanese manager, mas prefer niya yung cost leadership strategy kaysa sa United States manager. So yung kung saan sila nanggaling ay isa ring factor or nakaka-apekto sa preferences. Next slide, please. So we have here the strategic choice. So strategic choice is the evaluation of alternative strategies and selection of the best alternative. So yung strategic choice, so in context of business and management, it refers to the process of assessing and selecting the most appropriate or effective course of action from a range of available strategic alternatives. So, yung strategic choice is a very crucial step in a strategic planning process kasi ginaguide nito yung organization para magkaroon ng informed decision para sa mga future directions and actions ng isang company. So, by carefully evaluating and selecting the best alternatives, a company can increase the likelihood of achieving its strategic goals and maintaining the competitiveness in its industry. So consensus is the best strategic decision when companies or an organization facing a dynamic environment. So ang example nito is that yung pag-agree ng isang group para suportahan yung outcome ng isang boto. Or halimbawa, yung sa isang product development team, merong 3 product designs na pinropose. Pero kailangan isa lang yung i-implement. So bawat member ng team ay boboto for the product na sa tingin nila ay most commercially successful with all members agreeing to support the outcome of the vote. So, bawat isang member ay boboto para piliin kung alin yung mas maayos at mas pwedeng i-implement sa 3 product designs na pinropose ng team sa product development. So we have 2 techniques that help strategic managers to avoid the consensus trap that Alfred Sloan found. The first one is the devil's advocate. So si devil's advocate ay ina-identify lang nito yung mga potential pitfalls or yung mga hazards or yung mga problems with a proposed alternative strategy in formal presentation. So, halimbawa ay sa isang company or sa isang business ay may nakitang hazard or problem. So, yung mga teams or yung mga managers ay nagpo-propose na ng mga alternative strategy para masolusyonan agad yung mga problems na nakita or na-identified. So, the second one is the dialectical inquiry. So, in these techniques, it requires that 2 proposals using different assumptions be generated for each alternative strategy under consideration. So, sa technique nito, kailangan nito ng active preparation para sa mga for everyone involved in the decision. So, halimbawa ay sa isang group, dinivide into 2 subgroups, and each subgroup must develop a set of assumptions and recommendations opposed each other. So So kung sa devil's advocate ay ina-identify yung mga hazards at magpo-propose na agad ng mga strategy, dito naman ay magpo-propose ng dalawang strategy o higit pa, and then pag compare rin or pag-o-opposen yung dalawang strategy para maka-develop ng isang uh, alternative strategy. So, resulting alternative must be rigorously evaluated in terms of its ability to meet four criteria. So, the first one is the mutual exclusivity. So, in this criteria, doing any one alternative would preclude doing any other. So, as in a given situation, so making a choice or taking a particular action from a set of alternatives would make it possible to pursue or carry out any of other available options. So it suggests that the alternatives are mutually exclusive. So kapag uh, uh, yung mga alternatives ay mutually exclusive, so meaning na they cannot coexist or be pursued simultaneously. Hindi sila pwedeng i-pursue ng magkasabay. So choosing one option automatically rules out or prevents the pursuit of the other. So isa lang yung pipiliin sa mga options. The next criteria is success. So success, it must be feasible and have a good probability of success or merong chance na mag-success yung alternatives. Completeness, dapat ay ma-account yung lahat ng three strategic issues, let's be complete, and the internal consistency. So it makes sense on its own strategic decision for the entire firm and not contradict key goals, policies, and strategies currently being pursued by the firm or its units. Dapat ay hindi magko-contradict yung ipopropose na strategic decision sa mga guidelines and policies ng isang business. So the last topic is the developing policies. So policies is a broad guidelines for implementation. So, meaning na yung mga policies provide overarching principles or rules na nag-guide sa how specific actions or decisions should be carried out within an organization or kung paanong ang mga decision at mga activities sa organization ay kinikarried out or ginagawa. So, yung mga policies provide a strategic and high-level framework na nakakatulong para ma-ensure na consistent, na compliant, na ethical behavior and maintain the ethical behavior sa isang organization. So, those policies guides the implementation of specific actions and decisions, just like what I've said earlier, while allowing for some degree of flexibility and adaptability to different situations. So, yung detailed procedures and guidelines often complement policies to provide specific instructions for various operational aspects. Next slide. So that would
Open cam po tayo.
tapos din.
So that is the report of Group 5 po. So, thank you po everyone. Thank you po.